Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really digging into something fundamental, not just soft skills. We're looking at those abilities that truly pay off forever. The 15 timeless skills. Think of them as like lifelong investments. These aren't the kind of things that are trendy for a year or two in your career. Nope. These are foundational. They guarantee a payoff pretty much for the rest of your life.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And our job today really is to give you, the listener, a kind of distilled shortcut. We've gone through a ton of sources, looked at what they all say underpins real success. Doesn't matter what industry, doesn't matter where you live. We're pulling out the core value, the mechanism behind these abilities.
Yeah.
So you know exactly where to put your focus, your time, your energy. It's precious stuff.
Yeah, and critically, we're going way beyond just like listing them out. We've actually structured this. Put them into a clear 3-part framework. Think of it as your roadmap, okay? Designed so you can really internalize this stuff and, importantly, start applying it, like right away.
We've split this deep dive into 3 main chunks. First up is self-mastery. That's the inner game, all about your thinking, your being, your personal operating system, if you will. Second, we move outwards, interpersonal influence. That's the doing, the connecting, how you interact with the world. And finally, practical resilience, which covers the managing and adapting skills. Stuff you need to, well, not just survive, but really thrive out there.
Okay, let's get into it. And we have to start where all lasting success really begins, right? Inside the mind. All right, part 1. We're starting with the absolute core, the linchpin, you could say. It's the one skill that, honestly, all the research points to as tying everything else together, and that's self-awareness.
Yes, and this isn't just, navel-gazing or some fluffy concept. It's fundamental. It's your tool for calibration. What we found in the literature is it often breaks down into 2 key parts. There's internal self-awareness, which is really knowing your values, what drives you, your passions, your triggers, all that. And then there's external self-awareness, which is understanding how other people actually see you.
Ooh, that distinction is so important, isn't it? Because those 2 things, they don't always line up.
Yeah.
At all. Like, I might think I'm super calm under pressure, but if everyone around me sees me subtly freaking out, then my internal map just doesn't match the external reality. The sources we looked at call that disconnect a huge barrier to growth.
It is, absolutely. Without that self-awareness, you're essentially operating in the dark. It's guesswork. How can you pick the right career path? Or build a habit that sticks? Or even manage conflict effectively if you don't know your own default settings? For instance, if you truly know that you tend to withdraw when things get stressful, you can then proactively build systems or strategies to make yourself engage, instead of just hoping your willpower holds up, which it often doesn't. It gives you the power to build better habits tailored to who you actually are, not who you wish you were. And ultimately, live with more purpose. Real purpose, not reactive.
Okay, so once you have that better internal map, that self-awareness, you can start managing your responses better. Which brings us really neatly to the next skill, closely related, emotional intelligence, or EQ.
Right. If self-awareness is knowing your internal landscape, EQ is the ability to, manage that landscape effectively and navigate the internal landscapes of others too. It's usually talked about in 4 parts. That self-awareness piece we just discussed, then self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. It's really the complete package for interacting with other humans.
I sometimes worry, though, that people hear EQ and they just think it means being, nice or always calm. But the sources suggest it's much more strategic than that, right? It's about effectiveness, like being able to give really tough feedback, but doing it in a way that doesn't make the other person just shut down emotionally, or staying anchored, staying rational during a crisis when everyone else is, losing their heads.
That's precisely the strategic edge. People with high EQ, they're often described as fantastic listeners, as natural leaders. Why? Because they can read the room. They pick up on the subtleties, the nonverbal stuff, the shifts in tone, things that signal unspoken feelings or concerns, and that lets them avoid unnecessary conflict. They can often address the root emotional issue before it blows up. It really does give them a kind of superpower in those messy, high-stakes interactions we all face.
Okay, so moving from managing emotions, ours, and others, let's shift gears a bit towards pure analytical thinking, critical thinking, which is all about separating the signal from the overwhelming noise out there.
Oh, absolutely. In today's world, this skill has gone from just being nice to have to an absolute must-have, a necessity. We're just drowning in information, aren't we? And so much of it is conflicting or biased or just plain wrong. The core job of critical thinking is to systematically pick it apart, separate the actual facts from opinions, and crucially, tease out the logic from the emotionally loaded narratives.
But how do you actually do that? It's easy to say, think critically, but what are the tools? What does that look like in practice? The research seems to point towards actively fighting against our own cognitive biases, like confirmation bias, that tendency we all have to just look for information that confirms what we already believe. That's like the enemy of real critical thought.
It absolutely is, and we have to recognize just how sneaky these biases are, like the anchoring effect, where we latch onto the first piece of information we get and it colors everything after. A really powerful tool for critical thinking, often mentioned in like business and organizational contexts, is using the Socratic method, basically constantly asking why.
Yeah.
Why is this true? What's the evidence? What are the underlying assumptions here? Both your own and the ones others are presenting. It kind of builds a firewall for your brain. It teaches you to look at the structure of an argument before you just accept the conclusion.
And if you get good at this, if you master critical thinking, you become way less vulnerable to manipulation. Doesn't matter if it's financial hype or political spin or just, bad advice from a colleague. It means you end up making massively smarter decisions. Decisions based on evidence and reason, not just gut feelings or what everyone else seems to think.
Exactly. Now, thinking great thoughts is one thing, but it's kind of worthless if you don't execute, right?
Yeah.
Which brings us to the engine, the thing that drives consistent action. Self-discipline.
Right. And this is where we gotta be blunt, maybe. The research is crystal clear on this. Motivation. It's great for getting started, like starter fluid for a barbecue. But discipline, that's the actual fuel that keeps the fire burning for the long haul. Discipline beats motivation every single time. Why? Because motivation is fickle. It fades, especially when things get hard or boring.
And discipline isn't just about gritting your teeth and white-knuckling it. It's smarter than that.
Yeah.
It's about building identity and systems. We saw a lot of emphasis in the sources on techniques like mitigating decision fatigue. Basically, disciplined people, they automate the small stuff, the low-level choices, what they eat for breakfast maybe, what time they go to the gym. They do that to save their mental energy, their cognitive bandwidth for the really important decisions that actually move the needle.
Yeah, and there's that idea of habit stacking too, which I love. Instead of trying to cram a totally new habit into your already packed schedule, you just latch it onto something you already do automatically. An existing routine, like after I make my coffee, that's the existing habit, I will spend 5 minutes planning my day. That's the new one. It just reduces the friction, makes it easier to actually do the thing.
Precisely. When you frame discipline like that, as consistent, low-friction effort that's baked into your system, not reliant on these unreliable bursts of emotional energy, then you actually ensure execution. It really hammers home its role as the absolute bedrock of long-term success. It turns those occasional wins into compounding progress over time.
Okay, last one in this inner game section. And it might be the most powerful of all, in a way. We need to look at the tool that lets you constantly upgrade your entire mental toolkit. Learning how to learn.
Yes, the meta skill. It's called that because if you can master the process of learning itself, you effectively future-proof every other skill we're talking about today. And the purpose here is deeply personal. It's about understanding your own cognitive machinery. How does your brain learn best? Are you visual? Do you need diagrams, mind maps? Or are you auditory? Do you learn better by listening, or maybe by explaining the concept out loud to someone else? Or hands-on?
And the research really highlights specific techniques too, doesn't it? Like active recall and spaced repetition. It's not enough to just passively reread your notes or a textbook chapter. Active recall means forcing your brain to pull the information out without looking. That struggle, that's what makes it stick. And spaced repetition, just reviewing the information at increasing intervals over time. That's how you move it from shaky short-term memory into real, solid, long-term mastery.
And this is just hyper-relevant right now, isn't it? With technology, especially AI and automation, changing entire industries seemingly overnight. The sources are unanimous on this. The people who are efficient learning machines, those who can soak up, synthesize, and apply complex new information faster than everyone else, they will always have the advantage, always have the edge. You're essentially building adaptive muscle memory for your brain.
Yeah. Wow, okay. That is a seriously solid foundation for the inner game. Let's recap quickly. We've got self-awareness, emotional intelligence, EQ, critical thinking, self-discipline, and learning how to learn now. Let's take that powerful internal toolkit and see how we use it out in the world, how we apply it externally to influence things and connect with people. All right, shifting gears now, moving outward. And we're starting with the skill that the source has just consistently flagged as standing almost above all others in this realm of influence, and that's communication skills.
It truly is the bedrock, isn't it?
Yeah.
The foundation of your entire external life. Really, think about it. Every promotion you get or don't get, every successful relationship, romantic or otherwise. Every deal won, every investment secured or lost, it all hinges fundamentally on the quality of communication. If you can't effectively get what's inside your head out into the world, well, that brilliance just stays trapped. It doesn't count.
But effective communication, it's way more than just speaking clearly, isn't it? The sources put a massive emphasis on listening. And not just like waiting politely for your turn to talk, but really active listening, engaging, asking questions to clarify, confirming you actually understand. Apparently, doing that well shows respect, builds trust. And trust is basically the currency of influence, right?
Absolutely. And we also can't ignore the nonverbal side of things. It's huge. Study after study shows that a massive chunk of meaning, sometimes the majority, gets conveyed through body language. Your posture, eye contact, gestures, tone of voice. So mastering communication means making sure your words, your tone, and your body language are all singing from the same hymn sheet. They need to be aligned. This ability, just being able to articulate your thoughts clearly, confidently, consistently, it's the key. It opens doors you might not even know are there across every single part of your life.
Okay, let's break that down a bit further. Let's get into some specific ways we communicate, starting with the written word, writing skills.
Yes. And it's so crucial to grasp the connection here. Writing isn't just about putting words on paper. Writing is thinking made visible. If your writing is sloppy or vague or disorganized, chances are it's reflecting a lack of clarity in your actual thinking process. So the flip side is powerful. If you can learn to write well clearly, concisely, persuasively, it forces you to think clearly too. And that clarity allows you to persuade effectively.
And we're not talking about needing to be like the next great novelist here, are we? It's about practical, everyday utility, especially in business. Think about the emails we send, proposals we write, even just crafting a resume that instantly shows your value. The research often suggests focusing on structures like the inverted pyramid. Lead with the most important stuff right up front, then add the supporting details. It respects the reader's time, gets straight to the point, and immediately builds your credibility.
Exactly. Good writing, clear, concise, well-structured writing builds a really strong foundation of trust and competence. And unlike, say, specific technical skills that might become outdated pretty quickly, the ability to organize complex thoughts and present them effectively in writing, that's a skill that absolutely never goes out of style. It's always going to be a marker of intellectual rigor, no matter what your job is.
Okay, and then there's the other big communication piece, the one that, let's be honest, triggers more anxiety, more sweaty palms than probably any other skill, public speaking. But the payoff, if you can push through that fear, it's massive.
Oh, fear is definitely real. Glossophobia, they call it. It's incredibly common. But the reward, it's essentially leadership, visibility, influence, being able to stand up, command attention, and deliver a message effectively to a group. Doesn't matter if it's 3 people around a meeting table or 1,000 in an auditorium. It just instantly positions you differently. People see you as an expert, as a leader.
And the sources we looked at, they offered a really interesting way to reframe that fear, a kind of secret almost. It's about shifting your focus away from performance, like, oh God, are they judging me, and towards delivery of value. When you stop worrying about being perfect, about hitting every single word flawlessly, and instead focus purely on authentically sharing something, something valuable with the audience, the fear naturally starts to shrink. Your goal becomes moving the audience somehow, changing their perspective, informing them, inspiring them to act. It's about them, not you.
That's a great insight. And a very practical technique often cited is the rule of 3, structuring your key points into 3 distinct, memorable chunks. Apparently, our brains just process and retain information better in 3s. Don't ask me why, but it works. So by structuring your talk for clarity, for impact, using tools like that, you maximize your influence. And that influence is the ultimate payoff for facing down that fear.
Okay, so you've communicated your value, maybe even given a great presentation. Now you need to structure the outcome of that interaction, the give and take. This brings us squarely to the art of exchange, or maybe more commonly known as negotiation.
Right. And negotiation is happening all the time, isn't it? Way more often than we probably realize. It's not just the big things like buying a house or asking for a raise. It's everyday stuff too. How you divide up tasks on a team project, how you manage deadlines with your boss, how you resolve disagreements with your partner or your kids. It's truly everywhere.
Yeah, and we really need to get away from that old school kind of adversarial zero-sum view of negotiation, don't we? Like, it's all about manipulation and trickery. The research is really clear. The most successful Successful negotiators, the ones who build long-term relationships, are masters of finding the win-win scenario, and that requires serious preparation. You absolutely have to know your BATNA, your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Knowing your walkaway point gives you huge confidence and leverage.
Absolutely. Preparation is key. And understanding the power of anchoring is important too. Putting the first number on the table. If it's well-researched and credible, even if it's big ambitious, it often frames the entire discussion that follows. But ethical, effective negotiation isn't just about tactics. It demands you genuinely try to understand the underlying needs of the other side. What do they really want? What problem are they trying to solve? If you can help them get what they need while also getting what you need, that's where the magic happens. You save time, you save money, you reduce stress, and you earn immense respect.
Okay, building on that idea of respect and mutual benefit. Let's talk about networking.
Ah, yes, networking. That old saying definitely holds true. Your network really is your net worth in many ways. But we absolutely have to redefine what good networking actually means in practice, because it often gets a bad rap. It is not about transactional hunting, collecting business cards like trophies or only reaching out when you need a favor. It's much more like relational gardening. It's about cultivating connections over time.
Yeah, the sources really frame high-value networking as creating genuine, meaningful connections where both sides benefit and grow. Mutuality is key. This means investing time and energy in people before you need something, offering help first, being generous with your own contacts and knowledge, focusing on being a connector yourself, like introducing two people you know who might be able to help each other. That builds huge goodwill.
And we shouldn't underestimate the power of what sociologists call weak ties. Your strong ties, those are your close friends, your family, your immediate colleagues. They're important, of course. But your weak ties, those acquaintances, people you know more peripherally, maybe from different industries or circles, they're often the source of the most novel information, the most unexpected opportunities, precisely because their networks don't overlap much with yours. So by intentionally cultivating a diverse range of relationships, both strong and weak, you create this dynamic flow of information and opportunity. You really never know who might hold the key to your next big breakthrough.
Okay, let's round out this whole section on influence in connection with the big one. Leadership.
Yes. And the first, most crucial clarification right off the bat. Leadership is fundamentally about influence, not authority. Having the fancy title, the corner office, that doesn't automatically make you a leader, not a real one anyway. The true leader is the person people choose to follow, voluntarily, because they trust them, respect them, are inspired by them.
That's such an empowering idea, isn't it? It means even if you're the most junior person on the team, you can still demonstrate leadership. By taking ownership of your work, by holding yourself accountable, by proactively helping others, by inspiring people through your actions, not just your words. The leader's role, fundamentally, is about clarifying the vision, where are we going, removing obstacles for the team, and creating an environment where everyone can do their best work, bringing out the best in others.
Exactly. True leaders lead by example, not by command and control. They model the behavior they want to see, they're willing to step up, take calculated risks when necessary, and perhaps most importantly, they take responsibility when things go wrong. They don't pass the buck or shift blame. Mastering leadership, even informally, means becoming the kind of person others naturally look to for guidance, for direction, for stability, regardless of what the official org chart says.
Okay. Wow. That wraps up our deep dive into both the inner game, the mindset stuff, and this interpersonal advantage, the connecting and influencing skills. We've essentially built the internal engine and figured out how to drive it effectively in the world. Now we need the practical tools, the hard skills to actually manage resources and adapt to the, let's face it, often unpredictable and chaotic real world out there. All right, part 3. We're shifting into some really practical, tangible skills now, starting with one that provides, perhaps more than any other, genuine peace of mind. Financial literacy. Let's call it resource control. Yes. And let's be clear. Money doesn't necessarily buy happiness. We all know that. But managing money wisely, that absolutely buys freedom. It reduces a massive amount of life stress. Financial literacy isn't about needing to become, a Wall Street wizard or investment banker. Not at all. It's about understanding the fundamental mechanics of how personal finance actually works.
So what are those core mechanics then? What do people really need to grasp?
The sources consistently point to a few key things. Budgeting, just knowing where your money is actually going. understanding debt, especially the difference between good debt and bad debt. Like, good debt might be seen as an investment that could increase your future value, maybe a sensible mortgage or a student loan for a valuable degree. Bad debt, that's usually high-interest consumer debt, credit cards, payday loans, stuff used for things that depreciate or are consumed quickly. It just drags you down. And then there's the magic of compounding interest, understanding how that works both for you with investments and against you with debt.
Exactly. And the ultimate practical goal here is simple. Get your money working for you instead of you constantly working for it, or worse, working to pay it off. A neat little shortcut concept that often comes up is the rule of 72. It's a quick mental math trick. You just divide 72 by the annual interest rate you expect to earn on an investment, and that gives you a rough estimate of how many years it'll take for your money to double. It's surprisingly handy. Mastering these basic concepts really moves you away from financial anxiety towards building genuine long-term security. It's fundamentally about using what you have smarter, not necessarily just about earning more money.
Okay, next up, let's talk about something that is absolutely guaranteed in life. Problems. Things going wrong, obstacles popping up, which brings us to the skill of problem solving.
Yep. Challenges are inevitable, aren't they? In every job, every project, every area of life. But the difference between someone who just gets by and someone who really excels, who stands out, often it's their ability to tackle those problems effectively. And crucially, this skill isn't really about innate genius. It's much more about having and consistently applying a systematic, repeatable process.
Right. The process matters. It's not just flailing around hoping for a solution. What does that process typically look like based on the research? It usually starts with, first, clearly define the actual problem. Sounds obvious, but so many people skip this or misdiagnose the issue. Second, analyze its root causes. Don't just treat the symptoms, dig deeper, ask why multiple times. Third, generate multiple potential solutions. Brainstorm, don't just settle for the first okay idea that pops into your head, explore options. Fourth, pick the best one and implement it, take action. And finally, fifth, review the outcome. Did it work? What did we learn? How can we do better next time?
That structured approach is key. It helps you stay calm and think creatively, even when you're under pressure. Another powerful technique we saw mentioned is using first principles thinking. That means breaking down a really complex problem into its most fundamental basic truths or elements, and then building up a solution from scratch based on those truths, rather than just relying on analogies or how things have always been done before. Ultimately, when you show you can calmly, creatively, and effectively navigate obstacles, you become incredibly valuable. People want problem solvers, not just problem spotters.
Okay, that systematic approach to problems ties in really nicely with our third skill in this practical toolkit section, adaptability.
Oh, definitely. And we have to frame this discussion in the context of just how fast things are changing around us. It's accelerating, isn't it? Every year it feels like there are new technologies. AI is the obvious one right now, but also automation, new software platforms that can genuinely make old skills less relevant, sometimes almost overnight. Adaptability is your strategic response to living and working in that kind of dynamic, constantly shifting environment.
And it's more than just being flexible or willing to go with the flow, right? It's deeper than that. It's about actively cultivating a growth mindset. It's that constant willingness, even eagerness to learn new skills quickly, to unlearn outdated methods, which can be harder, and just stay open to change, even when it feels disruptive or uncomfortable. Because the reality is, those who resist change, often because they're scared or maybe because of the sunk cost fallacy, we've invested so much in the old way, they're the ones who inevitably get left behind.
Think of adaptability as your personal life insurance policy for the future. It really is. We often talk about wanting systems or people to be robust, meaning they can withstand shocks. But maybe even better is being anti-fragile. That's a term Nassim Taleb coined. Anti-fragile things don't just survive shocks or stresses, they actually get better because of them. They thrive on volatility. So by actively embracing new technologies, learning new processes, experimenting, you're not just protecting yourself, you're actively increasing your value in the marketplace. You're positioning yourself to thrive while others are just trying to pivot.
Okay, powerful stuff. Let's wrap up our 15 timeless skills now with the ultimate resource management tool. The one resource we can never get more of, time management.
Yes. And this skill is so often misunderstood, isn't it? People think it's just about, using a fancy productivity app or making endless to-do lists. But real time management, effective time management, is actually about managing your energy and, even more importantly, defining and defending your priorities. We can't manufacture more hours in the day. That's fixed. So we must become incredibly intentional about how we allocate the precious time we do have.
And the big shift that the research recommends is moving away from just reacting to whatever feels urgent in the moment, implementing frameworks like the Eisenhower matrix that forces you to categorize tasks based on whether they're urgent versus important. Most people apparently spend their days stuck in the urgent but not important quadrant, fighting fires, reacting to notifications, handling low-value tasks that scream loudly but don't actually move them towards their real goals.
Exactly. And successful time managers also deeply understand the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. They consciously focus the majority of their effort, maybe 80%, on the critical 20% of activities that yield the biggest results, the highest return, across all areas of their life, professional and personal. It's about intentionality. By aligning how you spend your time with what you truly value, which, by the way, loops right back to that self-awareness we started with. You start to feel like you're controlling your life instead of feeling like life and everyone else's demands are controlling you.
Wow, okay. That was a genuine deep dive, wasn't it?
Yeah.
15 absolutely foundational skills broken down across those 3 huge categories. The level of detail we got into here, I think it really provides a genuinely actionable roadmap for anyone listening. #tag outro. So just to quickly bring it all together again, let's consolidate the core assets we've really defined today. We started inside, establishing that crucial internal operating system with the inner game: self-awareness, emotional intelligence, critical thinking, self-discipline, and that meta skill, learning how to learn. Then we built outwards, looking at how we connect and exert influence in the world through interpersonal influence. Communication is the bedrock, then drilling down into writing and public speaking, the art of negotiation, the power of networking, and finally, leadership through influence.
And then we wrapped up with the essential toolkit for dealing with the real world's messiness and unpredictability: practical resilience, financial literacy for peace of mind, effective problem solving, crucial adaptability in the face of change, and mastering time management. Okay, so here's the final piece of strategy for you, the listener. Please hear this.
Yeah.
You do not achieve mastery by trying to tackle all 15 of these skills at once. That's just a recipe for overwhelm, burnout, and ultimately failure. Giving up. The smart strategy, the successful strategy, is to identify maybe the single weakest link for you right now in each of those 3 big areas. Perhaps it's, say, self-discipline in your inner game, maybe it's negotiation in your interactions, or financial literacy in your practical toolkit. Pick just one, or maybe 2 at the absolute most, and focus intensely on practicing and improving just those specific skills, day in, day out, small steps, consistently.
Yeah, because these skills, they aren't just abstract ideas on a list. They are tangible investments in your future self. And like any good investment, they compound over time. The small efforts you make today build on each other, creating massive results down the line. And as the central theme, really, of this entire deep dive has confirmed, the best investment you can ever possibly make, it's in yourself.
So choose your first point of action right now, today. What's the one skill from this list that, if you improved it even just marginally consistently, starting this week, what would have the biggest positive long-term impact on your life? Start right there.
Fantastic advice. Thank you so much for joining us for this really crucial deep dive today. We hope you found it valuable. We'll catch you next time.